What's up, Throttlers? Aristotle Full Throttle here, and I'm here with a very special guest, Douglas Beamer, and he does reviews in 7 minutes or less, and also does universe reviews for TV shows. How does it work? Tell me more about that.
Basically, if there's a first season of something, and then that first season actually introduced that character, and that character had a spin-off, I will review that in the same chronological order. So sometimes TV shows will continue to do that, like the Arrowverse. Other times they'll actually have movies, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's like, oh, the movies came first, and then there's the TV show, and then there's another set of movies, and then there's another TV show. So I just kind of break that all down. So that's how the universe reviews kind of work out.
So that's awesome. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the Marvel Universe on Netflix right now. It's Luke Cage, and you've got Iron Fist.
Yeah, that one.
See, I haven't gotten into that one yet, but Luke Cage is pretty cool. Daredevil's good, and those are all like parallel. The Punisher just came out, and so these are all interwoven, right? And these are all
very much so. So it would be very beneficial for me to kind of do it in that order. But at first, it starts out with Daredevil, then Jessica Jones, then Daredevil season 2, then Iron Fist, and then I skipped Luke Cage. I'm sorry, but it kind of goes like that.
Yeah,
and then all that kind of is important to keep in mind that even between those are the movies and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well.
So, and they're also loosely integrated with the films, right? They don't. I know that they do some references, like the incident in New York.
Daredevil. You got this reporter looking at a picture of one of those really big creatures falling on top of one of the buildings, like devastation in New York or something like that. You know, you're like, oh well, we know Avengers has happened. You know? Yeah, it's kind of a difficult task doing these universe reviews because you got to break it down. You got to talk about what were really important aspects of these shows, but also you have to be very respectful to the people who haven't watched it. So I do a general review in 7 minutes or less, and then the universe reviews is kind of fair game. I just talk about everything that happened in each season, or say movies. Spoilers abound.
But that's good. People like to know those things, and especially if they've seen them, they want to kind of get an update and just get filled in on the gaps that might have missed, because there's many hours of these TV shows on Netflix right now. And as far as the cinematic universe goes, we're somewhere around 16, 17 movies in, the latest being Thor Ragnarok.
And tell me there's a Doug character in there?
Well, there was a character named Doug that existed at one point in this universe that we hear about.
No, Doug's dead.
But Doug's dead. You can be new Doug.
New Doug. But I tried to start a revolution, but I didn't print enough pamphlets, so the only people that showed up with me, Mom and my boyfriend, so I don't like them.
All right, new Doug. Good. You can be new Doug.
I find that actually really funny, pretending that there is, that being a revelation to me is a lie, but, I really love it because it's like, now people get the chance to look at me and go, oh, hey, look, it's Doug. It's like, it's me, and I'm not dead.
What did you think of Thor Ragnarok? Because I actually did not have a chance to review it. So this is the perfect opportunity for us to talk about Thor Ragnarok, what we thought about it. I enjoyed that movie so much, so immensely. I laughed all the way through it, and I thought it was such a great take on the subject matter. What do you think?
Oh my God. Let's backtrack here for a second. When the first Thor came out, we were all questioning, how are they going to pull this off? Like, this is Thor. He's the god of thunder, Like, how are you going to fit this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? It happened. It was pretty fun. It wasn't the greatest, but I think it was lovely. I think it had a great approach and all that stuff. And then the sequel comes out, like after Avengers and Thor: The Dark World. It was supposed to be much more intense and darker and grittier. And I'm like, you're good too. Something's missing, but fine, it's fine. I like you just as equally as Thor 1.
Yeah.
And which I actually say that on my own reviews, like with Thor and the Thor of the Dark World. I'm like, I like them equally. And then we're waiting a long time for Thor Ragnarok. Like, several movies pass by. Mm-hmm. Civil War happens, and you're just like, where are Thor and Bruce Banner? Like, are we going to get a movie with them? And the studio's like, yes, absolutely. You're going to get a movie with both of them. And so I never had to worry about what they wanted to try and do, because I think they were really trying to make a good movie here. When we're watching it, it completely paid off. I think it is a fresh new take. I think it's amazing. And it was the first Thor movie out of the whole trilogy that I absolutely loved. It's hard to get out of your head, actually.
I really want to go see it again as soon as I can. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that they used Taika Waititi as a writer-director. And he was known for these independent, like small New Zealand branded comedies. He's got a very specific brand of comedy. He has the highest grossing movie that has ever come out of New Zealand. He wrote and directed it. And that movie has made $10 million. So he's never really dealt with such a budget. And the fact that Kevin Feige and the MCU was just like, here's $180 million. Do what you do, but with these characters. I think that really paid off because for me, this is mainly a Taika Waititi movie and then a Marvel movie because of just the way the entire approach to the comedy, the characters too. You'll never really see a heart-to-heart. I mean, this might be a minor spoiler, but a heart-to-heart between the Hulk and Thor after they just got into a fight. Kind of sitting down and hashing out like
who sees things like that, like, you know.
So that was great, and that does ring true in some of the comics, in some of the comic universe. And I think he was mining that section of the comic book universe. I thought that was really cool.
He honed it well, I think. And okay, I think there's some gripes in there that there's more funny than there are the dramatic moments, but I actually found there to be dramatic moments probably in the right areas. You know, like no spoilers, but there was a moment in the beginning where, you know, they were trying to look for Odin and stuff like that. And I found that to be rather touching. Like, they didn't try to be funny. They played it very straight. And it was actually one out of very many favorite scenes in that movie. Like, I can't just pick one. Like, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think those moments had more weight. Like, the dramatic moments had more weight because the movie was so funny. And Taika Waititi is kind of known for his happy, sad cinema. Because the comedies that he's done dealt with some really, like, you know, touching subject matter. He definitely brought in that flavor, particularly
and
with...
You were saying it was a Taika Waititi movie first, then a Marvel. And I think for a lot of these cinematic universes, you gotta have to do that. There's so many times that people are like, well, no, we gotta make this a Marvel movie first and then your style. Because then that just becomes a little bland. I'm not saying always, I'm just saying once in a while. You're gonna have to throw your style in there and have people look at it and go, I like your take. I really enjoy that because it paid off. And one reviewer that maybe this movie was like 80% improvised.
80% improvised. I can see that.
True. Very remarkable about that. Like the focus of, hey, let's just have fun and improvise and still have a finished product by the end of the day is remarkable.
This movie would not have worked if Chris Hemsworth was not that funny. He's actually a really funny dude. And
that's the Earth too, so yeah, it really works.
And that's the cool thing is like they exploited that aspect of his talent, which is not really used that much. And he's a funny dude. I feel like if you would use any typical other leading man who doesn't have that ability to actually have good comedic timing, this could have been a disaster. It could have been bad.
He's got the right amount of charisma where he's not trying too hard. Even like upon opening when he's in the cage, he's like, oh no, Thor's in a cage. Like, oh my God. That's already funny.
Yeah.
You know?
What I liked about that scene too is it seemed like it was a voiceover and then it seemed like he was talking to the camera. So there was like two different techniques used in the very beginning of the movie. And then you realize he's actually talking to a skeleton. And he's gone a little crazy, which also sets up his character for the movie, that he's been imprisoned and he's a little nutty now.
One of my favorite scenes in that same beginning was actually when he's dropping down from the chain and he's twirling around. Yeah. He has to stop these dramatic moments because he's not looking at the main bad guy or whatever. He's really not the main bad guy, right? And he's like, wait, no, hold on. I swear to you, I'm not doing this.
He's like, yeah. Go on.
Continue.
No, that was great. I loved that because that was all... Now you're like, okay, this is the kind of movie we're in for. And right out of the gate, the pacing is set for what kind of comedy you should expect. And the rest of the movie sort of follows suit with that really silly goofiness that is very branded.
What was that fire demon's name anyway? Do you remember?
Kevin. Bob. Freddie. No, I don't know. I don't remember.
Those were a lot of names to go for. But yeah, he was like, he says his name, he's like, son of... a bitch. What are you doing here? I love that part. It was just like he's trying to be respectable, and he's like, I don't know who he's the son of. So he just insults him instead.
Everybody's got their Scandinavian, like Nordic. Their last name is their father's first name.
Every Middle Earthian type lore, or should we say mythology, always has those respectable titles. Yeah. Son of Blathudio, and you're just like, oh yes, I remember Blathudio. He was a great guy. He gave me a corn on the cob that one day. He was a terrible warlord, but I loved generosity from him. He was great. Great.
That reminds me of that scene in this season of Game of Thrones where Daenerys is introduced as Queen of the Dragons and Dothraki and Unsullied, and this huge intro, and then this is Jon Snow.
He's King of the North. Yeah. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, oh, Jon Snow.
He doesn't have enough titles yet.
It's all right. They're gonna get together. Spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. And they're related, which is a little weird, but it is Game of Thrones.
But in Thor Ragnarok, nobody's related except their stories do connect. Like Valkyrie and Loki and Thor, they kind of relate in a really great way.
And Hela, but she's also related.
Very much so. Like minorly shoehorned, I might say. Like I'm a little disappointed. They kind of went, oh yeah, Hela's here. It's like, oh.
By the way, Hela's been here all along. It's a little shoehorned, but she did say that she was waiting for Odin to be gone from the situation.
That has been teased since the beginning of the first film. Like Odin's sleep and all that. Like it's been waiting for a long time.
You know what I liked about her character too, because there was a lot of discussion about whether that gauntlet. Because in the first Thor, there's a trophy room. And there's and then there's like Thanos' gauntlet missing the Infinity Stones.
She pushes it over like fake.
Yeah, exactly. So she sort of took care of that question that people might have had. Like, is that the actual?
That's the first thought I had too. Like, oh, hey, take a look, Marvel Cinematic Universe fans. Your questions have finally been answered.
Exactly.
Not quiet.
Exactly. She was just like, boom. And that's another good thing that Taika Waititi did with this movie. He still managed to integrate the overarching storyline that has to keep advancing. So they did address that. And of course, major spoiler, at the end, we see Thanos' ship.
That was my speculation. So you're kind of confirming it more, where like that mid-credit scene, I believe that was Thanos' ship. And I'm like, this is the start.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous now.
Right. Well, we've got one movie before Infinity War, and that's Black Panther. So
it's going to be one heck of a ride, that's for sure.
That movie looks pretty good. I mean, the trailer, I'll be pretty impressed. It looks very serious, very action-oriented, which is cool.
But here's the funny thing. Since we're still in the same vein of Marvel Cinematic Universe, if there was one thing that I absolutely, absolutely loved was Civil War. Like, that's another movie you just can't get out of your head. One of the guys that just kind of shows up, says, hey, I've got a vendetta, and then disappears for a bit and then comes back up and then disappears for a bit and comes back up is Black Panther. And every time he comes in, I'm just like, what's this guy going to do?
Yeah.
Is he going to win? I want him to win.
Yeah. He's got a great intro for a character, too, where he just, because you got Captain America chasing Winter Soldier and then just Black Panther coming in, and that's a great sequence too, where they're just running through the tunnel, and
it's an amazing sequence, absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that I was a little worried about was how they're going to introduce his character, because this has a massive amount of characters juggled in this movie for a 2.5 runtime, I think, almost. They did an exceptionally good job for doing that. It was like, what are you going to do with Black Panther that I haven't either already seen in 30 other movies before, because he's going to be after Bucky and all that stuff, and how am I going to relate to him emotionally?
They did that well, actually.
It's right in that Senate hearing, or whatever that hearing was. His father was like, I know politics does not suit you, and I know you don't like it, but you being here means a tremendous amount. And it's just in that moment when he just like cups his face, and he just says in a very emotional tone, like he looks at him and goes, thank you. And I'm like, I'm in. Yeah. It didn't take much. I'm in.
And then you've got a lot of Chad Boseman staring into the middle distance, talking about He's always talking about his
Look
family.
this up.
And I actually made a joke about how, I think in my review for that, how I thought it was funny that one of his guards in Black Widow had a confrontation. And I was like, oh, well, obviously Black Widow would win in that confrontation. But it turns out his guards are notoriously known for being able to kick anyone's ass.
Yeah. And it was funny because there was that moment where she's like, move or I'll make you move. And
yeah.
Of course,
He says, as entertaining as that would be, because that would be an entire movie itself.
You kept some restraint in their Civil War. Mad props, but I really wanted to see that.
Yeah. we might actually get to see some of that in the Black Panther movie.
There's a little worry now that, and just for me, personally, for Chadwick Boseman, he's already kind of reached that point of he's fantastic. In Black Panther, I don't know how they're going to portray his character because right now we got to see him in Civil War. He got to do his things that he needed to, and now he's got a standalone movie for all good intents and purposes. But it was that scene in the trailer where he's ready to head down and do something. He's got his comrade next to him, and she's like, don't freeze. And he goes, I never freeze. It just shows a confidence that I love seeing about this character, but it also worries me that he's just going to be confident no matter what throughout the movie, which is going to make me hard to relate to him now. So it's one of those things, like, I'm sure they're going to play him just right, but I can't wait to see how this really
how he gets
the fold.
So how he'll get like something like a vulnerability. I think in the trailer, I was surprised because he's got that rival who's also got a suit. I'm like, oh. I'm like, I see. In Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor was having all of those weird visions.
The moment that all started, that's kind of started him on that path to go find the Infinity Stones.
And that's how they sort of wrote him out of Civil War. And then, of course, at the end of Age of Ultron, the Hulk just switches the Quinjet on to outer space and takes off. In Thor, when he's like, he found the Quinjet, he's going to figure out how to get off the planet.
Of course, like the moment he got his hot ticket to get out of this place, Hulk comes in and destroys it. Like, like no, wait, stop. Hey, Bruce, what's going on, man?
That was a nice character nod. I also think I like the character nod when he turns back into Bruce and they only have the clothes for Tony Stark and he's walking around with like exact perfect Tony Stark attire, which is just like out of his character but very funny for
it too.
But very funny because it was like, that's exactly what Tony Stark would wear, but not Bruce Banner.
My favorite scene was actually when they're trying to get things moving along and they have to like convince Valkyrie to be a part of this whole thing. Hulk bouncing this ball in the background. It's tossed to Thor and he's still talking to Valkyrie, and then like it's at that moment where you're like, okay, we're getting somewhere, and he throws that ball against the window and it bounces back and hits him in the head. It's like he didn't even miss a beat. He's like, that's what heroes do.
Thor sets up his own arc that way. It's like, that's what heroes do, that's what heroes do. And then really realizing how to be a hero by the end. And
his own kind of hero.
I thought Thor Ragnarok was a fantastic movie. I thought it was a great Taika Waititi movie, and even he going into that movie thought this could be a career ender or a career booster. And so he just had carte blanche, did what he wanted to do. And I would highly recommend that anybody out there go see the movie Boy, directed by Taika Waititi, and Hunt for the Wilder People. And these are that's the one that did the best that any New Zealand export has ever done. And that also has Sam Neill in it, Hunt for the Wilder People. Jeff Goldblum's right-hand woman, she's very, very funny. And I think she's in all of Taika's movies.
It was great. I think all of that little play between each other, like it kind of shows that improvisation, because like that one you were talking about, she was like trying to assume what Jeff Goldblum wanted to do. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that right now. That's only when people are like disobeying me. Talking back to me, disobeying me. Thor Ragnarok is one of those movies that like just hit its mark and then went beyond.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I think it is one of my favorite Marvel movies out of all of them, just because of the enjoyment I had throughout the whole thing. I think people have to sort of let go and go into these movies sometimes as just open for whatever they're about to show you, and not necessarily expecting a movie like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which was excellent, but a different genre entirely. It was more of an action, a spy thriller.
Very much so.
And this was very much a screwball comedy with a lot of good action. And when the music kicks in the action sequences, when the Led Zeppelin kicks in, I was like super stoked for those fight scenes. I would definitely recommend Thor Ragnarok. and the other movies by Taika. And Douglas, where can we find you online?
You can find me with my username of Douglas Beamer. It's kind of hard for me actually to say that because I actually never done that before. Like, I'm one of those little tiny YouTubers.
Well, I'll definitely put it across the screen and in the description below for everybody to find.
Absolutely, thank you. Just put in Douglas Beamer. You should find me. It's the one with a higher subscriber count because the other one is kind of like a dead channel. I was going to use it, but didn't, so I got two, but it's the one, it looks a little bit more official.
So to clear up any confusion, the link will be in the description below. And you guys out there, if you have any comments or questions, or if you liked Thor Ragnarok or didn't like Thor Ragnarok, let us know because we want to talk about that with you guys. And definitely share and subscribe to this channel, like these videos, and turn on those notifications because if you want to see this right away, that's what you ought to do. I'm Aristotle, Full Throttle, your bro in the know with the fro, and I'll see you later.
Until next time, guys.